My name is Mark Henshaw. I work for Shaw, marketing for our pro audio group in the UK. And so I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to the series for those who are new to it. We've been running these Kickstart 2021 sessions in correspondence with Curtain Call. We've partnered up with those guys. It's a bit of a shared mission, really, to serve the industry and get everybody sort of fighting fit and ready to tackle this year head on, really. So, as we move further into the year, there's more optimism to hope that it'll be a better year than 2020 was. And really, these are all sort of focus sessions around getting the best out of it. Some of the sessions have been recorded, and so if you stick around towards the end, we'll talk about how you can get hold of the recordings of the previous topics. Today's topic is getting work ready, and as I say, we've got three fantastic guests joining us today. So to introduce those guests, I'm going to hand you over to Matt Humphrey from Curtain Call, who's going to introduce the session in a little bit more detail, and we can get going straight away. So thanks and enjoy the session.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. And thank you, everybody out there, for joining us on the last of our January Kickstart sessions presented by Shaw and Curtain Call. I hope everyone joining us as well and somehow managing to weather the storm in every sense right now. So my name's Matt Humphrey. I'm the co-founder of Curtain Call and a freelance photographer. Today's session is focusing on getting work ready. So whilst some of us may not know when we're going to be getting back to work in the industry that we all love, we know that there is always something that you can be doing to prepare yourself for that return. So joining us today is a trio of experts with a wealth of expertise spanning multiple areas of entertainment. So we have an event production manager, a theatre owner and producer, and a casting director. So we'll be talking through some of the main challenges, some hiccups, and some opportunities open to freelancers to help get work ready. We've enabled chat. No, we haven't. We have disabled chat for this webinar. But we have enabled the Q&A thing. So if you've got a question and you want to ask any of the team, feel free to kind of type it in and we'll do our best to kind of tackle it as many as possible. We'll also make time at the end for a specific question and answer session. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Sarah Cole, Mark Perry and James Pearson to the room. Hello, Mark. Oh, I think you might be on mute still.
There we go. Hi there, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
All right, thanks.
Excellent. Hey, James.
Hello, how you doing?
Thanks well, for having me here. Yeah, no worries. Thanks both for coming. Last but not least is Sarah. Hello, Sarah.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Fantastic. Great. Could I ask you each to introduce yourselves in reverse order of how you joined? So we'll start with Sarah Cole, please.
Yeah, hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Cole. I have an event production company, SC Productions, and we're based in Cardiff. We work nationally across bespoke events, city centre takeovers, festivals, music events, so real range. My background is theatre. I trained as a stage manager and then have sort of moved into production as I've gone. So, and currently I'm producing the opening ceremony for Coventry City of Culture. So obviously that's had some twists and turns along the way, but still aiming to mark the date one way or the other coming up. So I've been fortunate to have some work during this difficult time. And I also head up the We Make Events campaign team in Wales, as part of obviously the national and international effort of many supply chain companies and individuals who've come together to really champion our cause. And I am lucky enough in Cardiff here to sit on a government task force team as well. So I kind of feel like I'm first hand in terms of where we are, particularly here in Wales.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much for joining us, Sarah.
Pleasure.
Thank you. James?
Hello, my name's James Pearson, and with my wife, Rosie, we run Pearson Casting. We are casting directors, and we work across live entertainment, theatre, TV and film. We are about to enter our 7th year of casting. Both of us were performers prior to that. And then we've both worked in the industry as directors. We have a production company as well, which we've just started up. So lots of different areas throughout the industry and lots of experience. So 25th year. I know you can't tell, right? But, certainly feels like it. But yeah, amazing. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming, James. Great. Mark?
My name is Mark Perry, and yes, very good to be here. Thanks very much for having me on. My background is that I'm the executive director here at the Chiswick Playhouse, which is West London theatre, and we are a producing house as well as a receiving house, and I'm also the director of a business called Sightline Entertainment, which produces commercial theatre, both for Chiswick, but also in London and on tour. And my background, again, was as a performer. I've just sort of emerged into the producing world by hook and by crook.
Excellent. So as you can see, we've got quite a range of experience with the panel today. So I'm going to kind of kick off with a few general questions. They're not kind of relating to any specific area of the industry. And then as stuff comes up, if people want to ask other questions, feel free to chip in. So how should a freelancer best use their time to prepare for returning to work and the sector kind of opening back up again? Anyone want to dig in with that first one?
Yeah, I'll give that I'll take that first one. I think for me, really, I think as this time goes by, it's really about trying to keep yourself match fit, which is hard when there isn't a match to play. But, just doing what you can to just try and keep your skills up to date, if it's a skill that uses a computer, sort of video editing or whatever that might be. And obviously just keep trying to do it, keep your CAD up to speed. Keep those skills going and keep your fitness up and your mental agility up. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but like doing puzzles or just something like that where you just keep your mind a bit alert. Because I think for me, that's the thing that we're just losing our match fitness all as the weeks go by. So it's really trying to just address that, and I think as well, just keep in touch with your colleagues, clients, just reach out to people. We're absolutely all in the same boat. So, and it's just about just keeping that connectivity. I think we all realize now that many people are having to find other work just to get by, hand to mouth, and everyone gets that. No one in this amazing situation, no one is on their own. We're all in something very similar. So nothing you do is right or wrong, but I think just trying to keep yourself, like I say, match fit. If you've got another job or you can do something voluntary where you just got a bit of a routine, just going back to working every evening is going to come as quite a shock, I think, when we get back to it. But just try and do things that give you a slight pattern of a day, I think, and just keep that connectivity with people. I think that's an important way to just try and structure it through this, what is going to be longer than we anticipated time away from work.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, match fit. I like that. Does that kind of pertain also to the performing side of things, James, would you say?
Yes, absolutely. I could not agree more with what Sarah just said there. Especially since I think the things to sort of that we see, it's absolutely match fit. That is it. And then we get asked a lot how, as an actor or an artist, how to stay that match fit. And I think that routine absolutely is. We've said this literally since sort of last March and April. Find a routine. That doesn't mean that you don't have to be working on yourself every day, but just finding things through your day to create your routine. And I think that the key is to look at what the industry is. How many of these Zooms have you watched or been on? And that's a big hint to how our industry is working at the moment. We're still casting, and we're casting through Zoom. Dance calls through Zoom. People are in their bedrooms all over Europe dancing in kitchens and bedrooms and so on and so forth. And so it's understanding your space. How can you utilize, even if you're in the smallest of spaces, okay, well, how am I going to get work? Well, I might be asked to Zoom audition. What does that look like? How do I look like? How do I sound? And all of those things, I think, if you slot into the routine that Sarah's talking about, will make you feel really good through the day. Even if you just spend 20 minutes and you go, today I'm going to record myself doing a monologue, singing a song, dancing in my room. I'm going to film myself, on Zoom or whatever. What does that sound and look like? Watch it back and then look how you can improve that to take that on and use that as your kind of development, because you can't physically go into class. So I think it's things like that. And I think that if you're a creative out there, or even an artist, I think try and answer questions for the industry rather than trying to take on that responsibility. We tell performers, let us be responsible for certain things as well. Let us take certain burdens. For you as an artist, maybe there are questions to answer rather than just trying to be, feeling like, well, I'm an actor, and I'm not acting. Look out into the industry and see if there are answers within the industry that you can come up with. So, pivoting your own business down a slightly different route for this time. Even if nothing comes of it, just, again, it goes back to what Sarah said, just using your mind in that way, really, it really does help. It really sets you up. It really can re-energize you on a kind of daily basis. But it's okay to feel a bit crap. We all do.
Absolutely.
It's I think, that as well.
Yeah. Thanks, James. And I think that thing about looking for those moments where you can pivot and where you can answer those and ask those questions is basically looking for the opportunities. There are opportunities out there, and definitely this format and this kind of online world that we've kind of gotten used to now. From a producing perspective, Mark, would you say that there are what's been your experience of the opportunity with working with other people online and what freelancers could be doing right now?
It's the opportunities, I think, that no one saw coming last March, just how the theatre world could evolve, and just how, in some ways, just how resilient the industry has been in terms of coming up with opportunities, coming up with alternative ways of presenting work. I think has been genuinely astonishing. And to the industry's credit as a whole, I think that in terms of sort of linking this to how you then get ready for what might come, there are two things I'd say. That firstly, you've got to be really open to what it is that the opportunities are going to look like, and they are constantly changing. So to James's point, being ready for that, being able to present yourself in a positive light for that, means that you've got to be engaged in the industry still. And I think that this lockdown is and some of the things that we've heard about this lockdown relative to the sort of the first two, when there was still that sense of energy and optimism, this one's a harder one, I think, because I think people are tired and I think people are jaded by it. And somehow that being able to get that renewed sense of energy and focus on the industry, I think is really important. So whatever that means, and I think James put it very well, but even if it's half an hour a day of saying, no, I'm just going to look out there and just see what else is going on and what the industry is doing, I think is really important, because you want to be part of it and you want to know what those opportunities are, so that then also you can talk about it. I mean, that when I was going into auditions, that dreaded question I knew that casting directors would always ask me, people like you, James, that you say, so what have you been up to recently? And if you haven't been working, you'd hate that question, because you'd think, well, I don't know, how am I going to make it up? But now it's brilliant, because you can say, well, I've been sat in my bedroom, James, for the last 12 months. That's what I've been doing. So it's much better. But on the other hand, you've also got to be able to answer it with, and so in that time, I looked into this, I managed to understand this, or I've developed something. I've been able to think in a different way or approach things in a different way. And so I agree that sense of focus and interest into whatever it is that is coming up and coming our way has got to be there. And I'm not pretending that's easy. I think it's hard, but a bit of discipline, a bit of like 30 minutes to an hour every day, I really dedicate that time to it, I think is a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something the three of you have kind of picked up on there separately is this kind of issue of connectivity and being connected to the industry and to our colleagues and to our employers and to everybody really within it. I think actually there are opportunities to get in the room with people we never kind of would normally be able to get in the room with, and certainly through my experience with Freelancers Make Theatre work, and John has been a member of We Make Events as well. There are communities and places that people can go to find out different information, to be involved, to just talk with other people as well, and I think that's really important. Are there other places or methods or things that freelancers can use to kind of keep current and relevant when there is no work?
That's quite a tricky question, actually, because like Mark has just said, it is the evolution of our industry right now is kind of a daily to weekly event that what existed yesterday doesn't exist today and may not exist next week. We, towards the end of last year was extraordinary in the way that we thought shows were able to come back, and then they were just taken away after like 10 days of the December announcement. Oh yes, December all open and stuff, and watching those incredibly resilient producers really put their entire lives on the line to try and get things over that line. So I think the key is to really. I don't think there's a specific. Well, I mean, the other guys might think so. I don't think there's a specific answer to that, other than to sort of really stay on top of, like Mark said, what is going on, what seem to be the trends, what is happening now. Okay, there's online, there's streaming. This is happening now. So, okay, fine. How does that look to me as an artist or a creative? How do I become involved in that? Again, I think it's looking to try and answer questions rather than rather than looking at it as a whole industry, like this is what the industry used to look like. It's looking at it as very small sort of micro parts of the industry. Because I think if you look at the whole industry, you just won't get out of bed, because it's just I think it is quite chaotic. Yeah. It's overwhelming. So I think it's what do you love? I love singing. I love dancing. I love directing. So start really small, I think, and just go, okay, well, there's something we were saying about pivoting. We last year went to zero income, everything cancelled. We had so much work lined up, 24 hours, all gone. So there's a lot of walking around the garden in your pants at 10 a.m. drinking wine, crying, lots of that kind of stuff. But we won they call competitions from Innovate UK, where we started an online platform, an education platform called the Collective Creative Initiative. And we ran 30 hours of free classes, but the funding, we were able to pay the practitioners. And that came from looking at practitioners doing stuff for free on Twitter, our wonderful community coming together. And we looked at, how do we answer that question? They are going to need to be paid. How can we get them to be paid? And so we didn't look at the entire industry. We looked at that small sector of, how do we help those practitioners earn money? That was the question. And then weirdly, a friend sent us, oh guys, this might be something for you. And Innovate UK were giving money to people, areas of industry that have been severely hit by COVID. We put a bid in and we won the full funding to be able to run that for 6 months. Brilliant. So it was answering that little question, something that was nothing really relevant to us. Look, when we looked at casting, we just cried. There was nothing. There was no hope. It was utterly hopeless for us. There was normally when we work with producers and things, they've gone under and you end up not being paid, and you think but you look right or left and there's other work. This time around there was nothing. There was nowhere to look. So we stopped looking. We stopped looking down our route and just sat and breathed and looked at other areas of industry that needed questions needed problems answering, and that was one problem that we managed to answer, and it literally brought us out, and then other things came from that. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. Look at the small, look at little things. Is what I'm sorry, I'm waffling, but look at little things rather than just you as a director, you as a producer, you as an artist. Look to problems that you might be able to solve, and I think that can potentially accelerate that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, James. How about you guys? What, anything that you can think of in terms of keeping relevant and keeping current when there's no work? Because I know that We Make Events have had their speakeasies, for example, and Freelancers Make Theatre Work do this. We have boxing classes on a Tuesday morning, or dawn chorus, and the tea breaks is just an opportunity to kind of sit and talk with other freelancers. There are opportunities out there to connect, aren't there?
There is lots of out there, and I think as even as time goes on now, there'll be even more opportunities. And I think, like James said, there's some of the funding streams now are really focusing on sort of skills enhancement and trying to get money out to people in different ways. Sort of on a production side of things, I'm getting sort of even more calls now from sort of contractors looking for people to go and, I had one the other day come in about going to check generators, on some testing sites, so there's sort of everybody's sort of at the point now where we realise that, like as James said, our direct path is not as easy, but there are sort of other things that our skills can definitely facilitate. As part of We Make Events in Wales here, we've been desperately trying to offer our support to the vaccination programme, and and offering, furloughed employees an opportunity to do driving, make cups of tea, chat to people. And it's quite hard to penetrate those systems, but we're always trying to be inventive about ways to just use our skills, because actually, we are an incredibly resourceful bunch, and we've got lots of different skills, and there is a place for those that we can utilise them. So I think it's about trying to not be too proud in a sense of I can only do this, because you can do many things. And I think at the moment, just being a bit more versatile and a bit more, and it's all about, we know how the industry works. The more conversations you have with someone or different people, things come your way, or someone will realise that you're there and they might not have thought about you. So all of that, just, texting, get in a WhatsApp group, set something up yourselves. In terms of the Arts Council, obviously revenue funded companies have got a bit more resource at their disposal and are trying to support the freelance sector, with coffee mornings, Zoom coffee mornings, or trying to put out little bursaries for a little bit of personal development. So I think you've just got to do a bit of digging around online, with other people, see what they're reaching out to. The Stage is still putting out its online publication every week. All of the trade magazines are trying to get content out. So people are really trying to keep the industries connected. And, We Make Events is always an open invitation in terms of people joining those calls. And what's been fantastic with them really is that it's brought together a whole load of people that probably never have the time to all catch up on a Zoom once a week and have a decent conversation, but also people who are competitors who are now working together with one cause. And even in Wales, with the team I run here, again, we're all kind of buddies, but we're all sort of competitive with each other. But no, at the moment, the chips are down. We work together. We support each other, and even if some weeks the conversations are quite depressing, we're just there for each other and we can just bounce stuff around. So I think all of that is really important in terms of just trying to find the way you can help. And even if it's, your job working in a supermarket or whatever you're doing just to make ends meet, other people will be excited about what you normally do. So just talk to them about it. Share yourself with people. No one's got something over anyone else in this time. We're all very much on an equal footing, and we can only come through it all together. So I think that's really important to keep hold.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Sarah. Especially within the kind of joint sectors that we work within, as you can. I mean, there's such transferability of skills, isn't there? And certainly, I've heard of a lot of theatre people that are actually taking up work in television, for example. And there are new avenues for professionals in this space to kind of move laterally,
Sure,
and to kind of work.
Yeah, interestingly, with Beck2 in Wales, I presume they have it in England, but they have like a training arm called Cult Cymru, and they're actually doing some short courses at the moment for people to learn some of that transferable skill, because apparently the film sector does have quite a lot of technical vacancies at the moment. So they're trying to, where they're obviously up and running, they're trying to just help people just, even if it's a temporary move, just to take some employment in another sector within our wider sector, just to keep going. So again, that's what I mean. Just, that's what I mean about not being proud. Just think outside the box a little bit. Check out what the unions are doing. But they're great sources of information, and everybody's thinking, okay, we've got to box a bit clever here. We've got to think about this, or offer another opportunity. So seek and ye shall find. I know that sounds really cheesy, but there is things there, and we're all creative. That's what I keep saying in my government meetings. We're all creative, whether you're a technician, a production manager, an artist. We are a creative industry, and creatively, we will get ourselves out of this position. Do you know what I mean? If we could run the country, we'd be way out of it by now. But but in terms of we can use our own creative energies to try and push through.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Sarah.
I think picking up on Sarah's point on in terms of people staying sort of relevant and sort of almost prominent in other people's minds, I think is sort of almost as important. And one of the things that I think you're absolutely right, Sarah, that emphasis now on sort of local community, which I don't think, I certainly don't remember it being stronger in my sort of work life. But this ability to be able to contact local organisations and local businesses which might be relevant for you and actually make yourself known. At the moment, oddly, for businesses like us, for example, we're not running 10, 12 shows a week, which we normally do. We're sitting here and we are planning for the future. There's lots of stuff going on. But actually, if ever there was a time where we were interested in hearing from people who had ideas, who wanted to come to us and say that we want to be involved in some way, it's now. So we are open to people to come to us and say, we've had examples of it in the last few months. People have come and said, this is something that I could bring to Chiswick Playhouse. This is something that we could do. And actually, we're now exploring it. And a couple of those ideas will become realities as soon as we reopen. So where there are local businesses, local organisations which you can approach, I think if ever there was a time to make yourself sort of prominent and known, I think now is a good time to be doing it.
That's great. That was going to be one of my questions, actually. Should freelancers be getting in touch with somebody like yourselves to kind of let you know who they are and what they're interested in? I think the answer's a resounding yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got a couple of people that are asking questions regarding graduates. I wondered if I could just put these to you. So kind of speaking of connectivity and keeping current, any advice for 2020 drama school grads who are just at the start of their career and maybe feeling very lost in terms of where to even start in these new circumstances? I guess that's open to anybody really, because the grads will be from either acting or technical professions, and kind of the same boat for everybody really.
No, absolutely. I mean, just if you think from sort of grads, if I just look at it from an actor's perspective, and maybe the other guys can talk about sort of the wider industry as well, but certainly from an actor's perspective, I think it was interesting. In October, November, we were putting productions back on. We were one of the lot that decided it was a really good idea and pulled our show just after the tech. So that worked out. But actually, what was interesting is that we ran a series of auditions, and the number of people that came in and would do that bit, but say, "Sorry, I'm a bit rusty. I've not been doing anything for 9 months." I sort of really sympathised. I thought, God, I appreciate it. The problem is that unfortunately that doesn't help. It doesn't help you, because I want to see the people giving the best they can, because it makes our job easier. And James, I'm sure, will empathise with this. So that even I think for the grads that haven't got the huge amount of audition practice that people later in their careers have had, I think that process of going through that, reawakening all that energy and all that audition practice, all the focus they had when they were going through May, June, July, and as they were graduating, in their final year. They've got to get that back. And that actually comes back to, I think, what Sarah was saying right at the beginning about this, about stamina. And that stamina doesn't come back overnight. And so I think whether it's meeting up as groups of grads as they were, whether it's finding spaces to actually go and not actually having official classes and necessarily paying out money for that, but actually just as a collective, as a group, supporting each other in rehearsing and getting back into just the stamina, the rigmarole, going through that process is a really healthy one to do. And you can tell, and from an auditioneur's point of view, you can tell the people that have been doing that and the ones that haven't, because it's obvious when they come in the room. And of course, we all sympathise, we all empathise with the fact that it's incredibly hard, but we still just need to go through that audition process. So I think whatever you can do to get that stamina back and that practice, that sort of sense of energy and motivation back, I think is a really helpful thing to do. And for graduates, I think it's even more important.
Thank you, Mark. James?
Yeah, just to sort of, absolutely, to carry on from Mark, I think there's a way of looking at it as a grad that almost like, I think I would have a sense of almost feeling like this is kind of an interim year. You've graduated, but you're not. Imagine it's kind of like you still have this part to go through. This is the normal. This is what everyone has gone through, because the thing about it is everyone is going through it. Every single grad, and we'll no doubt onto this a lot through this conversation. And Sarah said it earlier, we're all in this together. Every single person in our industry is affected in some way within what they do within the industry. So as a grad, don't worry, don't stress about the fact that you're not auditioning every week or every month or whatever it is. Absolutely do what Mark said. And this sounds maybe harsh, but there are no excuses not to get together with your old mates from college and run a script, talk about that, look at your CVs, check each other's show reels out. Is this really the best? Do you want to do something through Zoom? Shall we just, and work those muscles? Again, what Sarah said right at the beginning, work those muscles, because although we will sympathize, and we do, with you when you're coming, whether it's a Zoom audition or if we manage to get you in the room, at the end of the day, we still, if you're in casting, if you've come into an audition, we have a job to get you into a show. So the thing about that is we do need you to be kind of on point, because if you're not, then we don't, like Mark said, we don't see you fully. So just, again, it comes back to like 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day, instead of being on social media, just have a script, read that script, go over that song. If you're a dancer, try and work on your tech. There are a lot of online classes and things, some paid, very small fees, or free. There's still lots of stuff going on, but it's about creating your own community as grads. Check out GradFest. The wonderful Liam Gartland, he's a grad himself, and he started GradFest, doing incredible stuff. He's now producing, I think he's 21, and it's all about the grads. You've got Industry Minds, which will support the mental health. You can contact them. It's free if you're really struggling, and they are a charity, and they can help you out in that way. There's lots us, write to us saying, listen, I saw the webinar, I want to ask you some questions. We will answer those questions. So, but do it, connect together and try and create your own little community, work those muscles, work that brain, like Sarah said originally, and just keep just a little bit every day, every other day, so that you don't feel completely lost when you have to come back and audition, because we need you and we want you to be great. We really do. There's that thing that I was never told as an actor, and I wish I had been, that, and because there's always this fear about walking into do an audition, a casting, but we need you. That's it. We do not want you to be rubbish. We want you to be as fantastic as we hope you are. And that's just I wish somebody said that to me. I know it sounds so obvious, but it's true. When you walk into that room, I want you to be absolutely outstanding. I want to finish that day and say, Mark, we've got 20 people that can play Juliet, not, oh my God, there's no one. on what we're going to do,
No, you're right.
It'd be amazing.
John always says you're the solution to somebody's problem. And you've got to walk into the room with that mindset, for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, getting match fit, keeping on it and keeping connected are all really important. James, you mentioned a CV, and I wonder from an events perspective or from any of your perspectives, are there any kind of more kind of hands-on practical things to consider when it comes to kind of preparing for work? I don't know, permits, qualifications, training.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say, really. I think graduates in some ways are in a strong position in a sense that through your training, you will have come into contact with an extraordinary amount of people, industry professionals. So again, don't be shy. Write to them, email them, say, hi, do you remember me? You taught us this X, just let you know I'm graduated now. I'm still here. I'd love to get going when there's an opportunity. Do you know what I mean? The world isn't going to come to you. You know, that hasn't changed. You have to go out there and grab it if you want it. So, but again, coming out of drama school, you're actually at a point or training that you have had quite a lot of connectivity with industry professionals. So just utilize that time and just reach out to them. I think from sort of technical and production points of view, again, you can determine your path. There's other things you can do. Again, you've probably got a range of skills there that you can utilize. So, again, think outside the box and go, okay, I've spent this time training this. I need to keep my hand in, but for now I'm going to do something else, or I'm just going to take some other work just to muddle through. But, you've still got that energy. If you're into lighting, keep on top of the lighting conversations and the lighting techs and lighting forums. Same with sound, keep searching out opportunities. I mean, and there was a real buzz when England was about to go back into work, in the autumn. And, like everyone says, people are looking for people to do those roles, so there's always things to do. In terms of CVs, yeah, absolutely keep your CVs up to date, and be honest on them. Do you know what I mean? Everyone knows no one's got much work that they're going to enter for 2020. So if someone sends a CV with quite a lot on there, could be a little bit suspicious of what's going on. So just have an honesty about your approach, and a genuine quality to your work. But
it's all experience now, isn't it?
Well, exactly. Keep CVs updated. It doesn't matter if you've done a really rubbishy job during this period just to earn money. It shows something about you. It shows that you're willing to roll your sleeves up and graft on and just, take the rough with the smooth. So again, for me, I always like an honesty in a CV, but make sure they're tidy, and that they're ready to go.
What should
again,
be on
with online bits of online training, there's various courses and things out there. If there's something that, if you're a stage manager, example, and you always thought your score reading was a bit rubbish, then maybe that's something you should do. Or, you spend time getting some good templates up for your props tables and your, just a bit of homework, really. Just a little bit of, okay, well, I'm just going to get my ducks in order here. It's actually sometimes really nice at the moment just to have a bit of time to actually take a breath, rather than just being that constant, particularly when you're freelancing and you're always worried about where your next job's coming from. You don't perhaps do some of that personal administration that you need to do. Just some time to get on top of it. Yeah,
absolutely. I've got an interesting one because we've kind of spoken about people within the industry potentially leaving, but also graduates kind of moving forward with their careers. There's a question here from Marta, who has kind of come from outside the industry and looking to kind of get into it. And she says, I'm planning to move freelance after working as an employee for all of my life. I've been accepted on Spotlight and I'm starting again to train online, considering to keep my current part-time job for now and then see how much work I can get in the performing industry. Any recommendations for this transition? It's a hard one. It's kind of starting off, isn't it, in many respects?
It is a hard one. And yet, it's ironically, it's sort of coming at it the other way, that I think there are a lot of performers that have just gone through a standard training process and ended up, as a performer or an artist or creative in whatever field, whether that's technical or performer. I think one of the interesting things that I always talk to freelancers about is clearly you've got the job that you want to be doing, but it's often the second job which allows you to continue doing the first one. And I've spoken at a number of drama schools over the years about not working as an, I often get asked to go and talk to the acting classes. It's not actually about working as an actor, it's about how to live as an actor. And living as an actor is a completely different set of objectives and things to achieve. And one of the key things I always talk about is, what's the second job? What's your second indicate? Because the reason why a lot of people leave the industry isn't because necessarily of the first job, i.e. the one they want to be doing, it's because the extent to which they dislike the second one. And if you can't take the second one, then you have to sacrifice the first one. So I always talk to people, and I think this is something, again, about what can freelancers be doing at the moment. It's actually, well, focusing on the second one. What's the skill that you can develop, or what skill can you have which allows you to fulfill the whatever it is that the long-term primary objective is. So someone that's coming into the industry like Marta, who's already got that second job, you're actually in quite a good spot, because it allows you the freedom then to actually train, to get bits of experience, to become more and more sort of exposed to the industry and to the people within it, and build that network over a period of time. And the ability to have that second job, I think, gives you the longevity in the industry. So I think it's a two-way thing. For people that are already there, I'd be making sure that second role is one which works with the first, and that focus on that. And often when lots of drama schools were sort of worried about me going in and talking about this, because it sort of gave the impression that people wouldn't always be working as actors. And my view on that was, well, actually, the reason why this is not a negative, is absolutely a positive, is because the better the second job, the longer you will be able to sustain the first. And it gives you that opportunity to then be purely what it is that you want to do. So I actually think that emphasis on number two is an important one.
That's a great answer. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, really positive way of looking at it as well. I've got a question specifically for James. I'm very keen to get into casting and have already been lucky enough to have some experience as a runner and assistant, but not enough to go in at a high up role. What can I be doing to further this experience and knowledge and get myself match fit in these early stages of my casting world during this time? And is there anything I can be offering to casting directors that I can be doing remotely? Thanks so much. I also loved CCI, so thank you, James and Rosie, for that.
You're welcome. So it depends on your current experience and how long you've been in the industry and so on. So Rosie and I didn't go through the normal channels of assisting and then being associates and so on and so forth. We started casting. I had been an actor and director for 18 years by that point. I worked as an agent for over a year because I was interested in getting into casting, and I wanted to have an understanding that when I'm on this side of it and I'm talking to an agent, I know what they're going through. I'd worked across TV, film, theatre, all areas of the industry, concerts, and so on and so forth. And at the time, both Rosie and I were working in the cruise industry. So a friend of mine said to me, have you ever done a cruise? And I was doing a show in London, and I was like, no. And he said, you'd love it. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah, you would absolutely love it. So that's interesting. I do want to travel, and I'd love to get out of London. And I auditioned, and I got to do my first cruise as a production singer. And I ended up doing 13 contracts, and he was right. I did love it. I absolutely, it was one of the best things I ever did. I traveled the entire world. I worked with Ukrainians and Russians and Australians and Canadians and Americans, with jugglers, aerialists, artists that learned. So if you get a dance from Australia and a dance from England, dance from America, they're very different. Their attack is very different. Vocal stylings are very different. And I became very passionate about that industry. And we were looking to come back to land and resettle. And we thought, we're going to do casting. We are passionate about this industry that gets a really bad rap. It's terrible that it does, because work is work and you should be proud of everything you do. And so that's where we started. We started with Norwegian Cruise Line, and that's how we started. And we took all of our experiences as artists and actors and sort of got rid of everything that we hated about the audition room. And we launched that we would make it the safest, most creative place, which is the worst place for actors to walk into, and we tried to do everything we can. We will always give someone another go if you can just see them shaking in the nerves. We'll say, right, yeah, let's do that again. And so we came at it from the way we wanted to run it, with respect, etc., etc. So, but Rosie had 15 years, I'd had 18 years at that point in the industry. So it wasn't like we just went into it. If you're just starting out and maybe you're like in your early 20s and you haven't got that industry experience, then yes, you're doing the right thing, being a runner, being interning. What is a really great thing, and we get people write to us all the time, and if you do write, we will respond and you will go in a file for when it opens up. At the moment, it is tricky. Somebody asked, could I be a Zoom intern? But it's just impossible for us. But we are always looking to help people if that's a career path that they want to do, and we will use you as a runner on the day and introduce you and get you crowd control and all of that, and being our ears outside the room, we'll let you in the room and so on. So the answer is write to every single casting director that there is. Go on Spotlight, there's contacts on there, you can type in casting directors and they're all there, and just ask. Just say, I want to gain experience. This is what I have so far, and this is what I would love to do. Make it slightly personal. You don't have to write pages and pages, but I will, happy to make the tea kind of thing. But also sell what qualities you have. I trained in musical theatre. I have a fantastic ear. I'm a great musician. I had experience in TV. I trained at Rose Bruford on the actor musician course. So what skills do you have if you're a performer right now that you can offer up that casting director that they will see value in? So that's really useful, because we do casting across all areas, but for example, we're about to do a actor musician show. So if you wrote to us saying, I graduated Mountain View or Rose Bruford, but I don't want to be a performer anymore, we'd be like, excellent. So we would utilize your skills as an actor musician in the ways that we would need you. So maybe we'll get you going through CVs, check through these CVs, who has these skill sets, blah, 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 and all of those kind of things. So just write to every single casting director out there that's working in an area that you are really passionate about. Because I think that's the key. Passion. What can you offer? What are your skill sets that might be different to somebody else, rather than, I just want to get into casting, can I help you? Tell us about who you are.
I completely agree that passion is the most important thing. And kind of just looking at this screen, I know that there's no one route to get to where you are now. We all started out in a different background to where we are today. And I think that's why I love the industry as well, because there's a space for everybody. There's no one answer. If you want to do something, the important thing is to have the right mindset and to have the passion to do it. I definitely want to employ somebody who says, I will turn up to work not on time but early, and I will work until the job is done. That it is in some ways more important to me than somebody who can say, I've got this qualification and this certification. I wonder from a technical perspective whether you kind of come across that before, Sarah, as well.
Oh, all the time. I mean, the thing with our game, as everyone knows, it's not really a job. It's a lifestyle. You make big sacrifices, whether they're personal sacrifices or whether, you give up all your evenings and your weekends to facilitate work. It's a real commitment, this industry, whether you're performing or working back of house, in technical roles. People live away from home for long periods of time. This is the most time I've ever spent in one place in my whole life. It's kind of totally bizarre. I have to have my suitcase still on the bedroom floor because I can't quite cope with the fact it doesn't need to go anywhere. So that passion and that want to do the work is really key. And I think some technical staff struggle a little bit to kind of emulate that, and get it through. But that dedication. I never forget, a few years ago I had a festival and there was a lad who come as a volunteer for the one day. He was constantly telling me about how passionate he was about the work and how thrilled he was. He'd written a few times to us, and finally he got an opportunity, and I was like, brilliant. And I said to him, well, tomorrow I'd really like you to take on another role and, everything else. It got to the next morning, he didn't appear. I was ringing him, trying to find out where he was, because you always worry someone might be hurt or whatever. No response. He rang me at 1 o'clock. So I've been on site since 7. He rang me at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to tell me that he'd gone to a party after he'd left work and had slept through 3 alarms and therefore wasn't able to come today because he'd, overslept. And I was just like, mate, do you know what? Yesterday you spent all day telling me that you really wanted this. And that's what happens today. I said, don't ever bother contacting me again. Like, what's the point? Like, you don't mean it. You're just telling me what you think I want to hear. But ultimately, I don't care if you'd come in absolutely wasted. If you were here, we could have done something about it. But the fact you're not here, no. So do you know what I mean? You've got to believe in what you're saying. You've got to really commit to things. So, but yeah, it's all about passion. Passion gets you through those hard, oh my God, when you're in a tech that's endless and you've gone over the same piece of work a million times, you got to dig deep for that moment to keep you in that room and keep you pushing through and to get to the other side of that moment. So, that passion and that commitment, I think, to the work is really key. And I think that's what's been hard in the last 12 months is just trying to find where to place that passion and commitment when the work isn't there, which actually for a lot of us has been, a massive thing to kind of go, oh, all right, okay. Oh, so I think it's finding where to energize that. Some people are taking up sports or, Joe Wicks has filled a gap or whatever it's been for people. But do you know what I mean? I think, it's about channeling that passion, but don't ever lose that because that is what makes our industry so brilliant. So, just try and retain it through these tricky times.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. There's one more question which kind of feeds into that. So you've all arrived, this is from Penny, you've arrived at your current roles and careers from different paths. How important is it to experience all the different things that you've done to find out all aspects of the industry? Anybody?
Okay, I can go on this one. I think that, I agree with what you were saying earlier, Matt, that it is important. I think you learn a lot as you go through, but there is no definitive route. And that is partly the joy of it. So if you plan too much, I think if you've got certain expectations, I always remember certain people that I've worked with had, by this age, I'm going to have done this. By that year, I would have done that. Invariably, that has just left a cataclysmic disappointment because you can't, but they would have ended up doing completely different things. One actor that I trained with has ended up being a phenomenally successful history writer. And he had no idea that was the route he was going to go, and he had certain expectations. I think I think to have too prescriptive a route actually can just become more problematic. But being open to any kind of opportunity, that I think is such an important attribute to have. Just be open and alive to the things that come across.
Definitely.
Pursue them.
Yeah, open to opportunities and follow your passions.
I was just going to say that I was teaching some students this week, actually, some stage management students. And that was exactly what I said to them. I said, if anyone ever says to you, what are you going to be doing in 5 years' time? Just tell them that you don't know, because that's the joy of this industry where opportunities come left field, or like you said earlier, a door will shut and then suddenly another door opens, or I think it was James that said that, in terms of opportunities. So I think that's what's the most joyous thing about this. And it always makes me laugh when you meet first years when they're training and they say, I want to be a DSM on musicals. And you go, all right, okay. And then you sort of start talking about, the fact that you can do these big events and we call that show calling, and there's other opportunities there. And you might go and work on the Olympics, or you might be on tour, or tour with a rock and roll band, and they kind of go, oh, because they just don't know what those things are. You don't know the things that your careers teacher in school doesn't tell you. So there's such a wealth of jobs and opportunities, and even now people are sort of I know some technician friends who are really focusing in on the live streaming, whereas that's not necessarily been their original destiny, but they're just thinking, okay, well, I can adapt the skills I have and I can offer a really a good room in terms of some of the design that's behind the sets or whatever. So there's always ways to reinvent yourself and your skills. So I think as Mark said there, seeking out opportunities or just going with the flow. And sometimes that's even about, what I always say to technical and production staff, sometimes it's about a bit of a gamble. And it might be that you have to volunteer on something for a day or a couple of days just to get your foot in the door and just see what that's like. Because there's no way you can know what everything's like, until you try it. I didn't go on tour with a rock and roll band until I was in my 30s. I did 2 tours. I thought it was brilliant. I didn't do it again, but I got to see something that, I'd only ever dreamt of. It was amazing,
Yeah.
So you just never know what's around the corner. And that's what, for me, is the joy of what we do. We're not sat in a chair in front of a bank, being a bank clerk or whatever, and we know what we're going to do for 30 years. We can do whatever we want.
Thank you. That's a good way to end it, actually. Kind of gotten to our hour time. So to kind of sum up, keep active, keep that passion going, look for webinars to join, don't just sit around and wait. The world is not going to come to you. You have to go and find it. But stay connected and stay in touch with people. It's just so important. Well, thank you, all of you, for being part of this webinar. I feel like it's been a really useful one for our attendees and for myself as well. So thank you. And it's great to see you. I'm going to bring Mark back on from Shaw just to kind of sum up.
Hello, everybody. Hiya. Thanks ever so much, guys. That was a brilliant session. And may I say, just excellent advice based on real life experience, which is fantastic. So just that this is the last session from Kickstart 2021. So thank you to everyone who's attended any of the sessions we've done. And if you've attended more than one, then yeah, thank you so much for coming and supporting these sessions. And hopefully you've got something great out of them. We will be in touch via email with some of the recordings of the previous sessions. There are 2 sessions that were recorded. The first one being the finance session, which was the first one, and the third session, which was the networking session that we ran last week. We're just working out a couple of things with that before we can get that one live. This session will have been recorded as well. So if you wanted to go over anything that's been covered today, then you will get the opportunity to do so. They will go live on the Shaw YouTube channel as soon as we got those files all edited up. But just to finalise the whole thing and just to round it off, I just wanted to add, if that's okay, that make sure you make the best of this time. It's okay to feel crap. It really is difficult for all of us, and it's okay to accept that and know that it's okay. But we must get something out of this lockdown. I think all of us must strive to get something out of it, whether it be learning a new skill or networking or working on just your own kind of well-being. And just working to just get something constructive out of it, because at the end of the day, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, essentially. So thank you ever so much to everybody, and to everyone who's taken part, all the panelists, and thank you to Curtain Call for really leading these sessions. I mean, we've teamed up with Curtain Call to do a lot of the promotion behind it, but it really is Curtain Call that have led the way with the panel side of things. So thank you, Matt, and thank you, John. You've been fantastic through the whole thing. So let's make 2021 the best. Let's make 2021. No worries. Let's make 2021 the best year it can possibly be. Thanks, guys.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody.